Computational science, absolute error, relative error, mean absolute error. Absolute error is the difference between measured or inferred value and the actual value of a quality. The absolute error is inadequate due to the fact that it does not give any details regarding the importance of the error. While measuring distances between cities kilometers apart, an error of a few centimeters is negligible and is irrelevant. Consider another case where an error of centimeters when measuring small machine part is a very significant error. Both the errors are in the order of 7 centimeters, but the second error is more severe than the first one. Error formula. If x is the actual value of quality and x0 is the measured value of the quantity, then the absolute error value can be calculated using the formula delta x equals x0 negative x. Here, delta x is called an absolute error. If we consider multiple measurements, then the arithmetic mean of absolute errors of individual measurements should be the final absolute error. Error example. For example, 24.13 is the actual value of a quantity and 25.09 is the measured of inferred value. Then the absolute error will be absolute error equals 25.09 minus 24.13 is equals to 0.86. Most of the time, it is sufficient to record only 2 decimal digits of the absolute error. Thus, it is sufficient to state the absolute error of the approximation. 4.55 to the correct value 4.538395 is 0.012. Relative error. The relative error is defined as the ratio of the absolute error of the measurement to the actual measurement. Using this method, we can determine the magnitude of the absolute error in terms of the actual size of the measurement. If the true measurement of the object error is an indication of how good measurement is relative to the size of the object being measured, if x is the actual value of quantity, x0 is the measured value of the quantity, and delta x is the absolute error, then the relative error can be measured using the below formula. Relative error equals x0 negative x slash x equals delta x and x. An important note that relative error are dimensionless. Where writing relative error, it is usual to multiply the functional error by 100 and express it as a percentage. Relative error. Absolute error is the amount of physical error in a measurement period. Let's say a meter stick is used to measure a given distance. The error is rather hastily made, but it is good to 1 plus 1 millimeter. This is the absolute error of the measurement. That is, absolute error is equals to 1 millimeter is equals to 0.001 m. In terms common to error propagation, absolute error equals delta x, where x is any variable. Relative error gives an indication of how good a measurement is relative to the size of the thing being measured. Let's say that 2 students measured 2 objects with meter stick. One student measured the height of a room and gets a value of 3.215. 2 objects with meters plus 1 millimeter. Another student measured the height of a small cylinder and measures 0.0075 meters equals to 1 millimeter. Clearly, the overall accuracy of the ceiling height is much better than that of the 7.5 cm cylinder. The comparative accuracy of these measurements can be determined by looking at their relative errors. In relative error example, absolute error. Absolute error, relative error is equals to absolute error value of thing measured. in other terms common to error propagation. Relative error equals delta x and x. Where is x in any variable? Now in our example, relative error 0.01 m and then 3.125 m times 100 is equals to 0.0003%. Relative error 0.001 m and 0.075 m times 100 equals to 0.01%. Clearly, the relative error in ceiling height is considerably smaller than the relative error in the cylinder height, even though the amount of the absolute error is the same in each case. Mean absolute error. Mean absolute error is the average of all absolute errors of the data collected. It is abbreviated as MAE, mean absolute error. It is obtained by dividing the sum of the all absolute errors with the number of errors. The formula for MAE is